Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Kare-ing Conversations. I'm your host, Rachel Hill, here at Foresight, joined, as always, by my wonderful, lovable, caring Care Bear. There he is, Jordan Evans of Care. Hello, hello.
What's up, Rachel? What's up?
we are really we're amped up for a Wednesday. We've got a great topic. We had some pre-show antics with our very special guest who we're going to be bringing on after our intro. A lot of you who follow Foresight may know her. I don't want to say much more. It's a very special guest. We're lucky to have her. There's a lot going on in her hometown. I do want her to talk a little bit about that and draw a little attention to that. And then we're getting into the topic of women in leadership in today's episode, particularly in senior living. So, Jordan, I'm just going to ask you to excuse yourself, and then my guest and I will host the rest of the show. How's that sound? Let's roll that intro. Man, intro gets me every time. Ruin this up. Spoiler alert. Jada, why is she on screen already? You're firing you on air. I'll call Steve in Hawaii. I'm just kidding. Guys, as you can see, we've got a very special guest. We've got Foresight's very own Leigh Ann Hubbard, talented writer, host of Marketing Monday, which is one of our other shows, and a great person to have on your team. She's amazing. She's got a lot going on in her hometown. So, Leigh Ann, welcome. Tell everyone kind of what's going on, and thank you for joining us. I know you're passionate about this topic, so thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, I actually wrote an article about it, and we've been talking about it, about women in leadership and senior living. So there's some interesting stats and stuff that we can kind of sort through and start figuring out. But I appreciate that intro. Everything that you said was true. I agree. Thank you for having me on. And I love Kare-ing Conversations, and I'm a fangirl behind the scenes. So I'm really excited to be on. I am in Oxford right now, Mississippi. Normally I'm in Amory, Mississippi. And if anybody thanks for asking, Rachel, if you've been watching the news, you might have heard of Amory, Mississippi, in addition to a few other towns that were hit by a tornadoes on Friday night. And my house is fine. I am fine. The dogs that were with me are fine. But our town was really, really hit hard. A lot of people's houses are not good. So I'm in Oxford, where we have electricity, unlike in Amory, and where in Amory there's still a boil water notice, and I'm going back down there and helping out as I can, and we're making it through. But we appreciate all the love and the attention and the interest from around the country that we're getting.
Absolutely, definitely needed. And yeah, I know, again, not senior living related, but so important. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that. So Leigh Ann, I wanna dive in. Let's back up a little bit here. What compelled you to write an article based on a study? And for our viewers, Jada, if you can just throw up real quick, yes. So this is what we're talking about today. There's already a link underneath today's show promo that you can go to and access that. So that's what we're talking about. So yeah, Leigh Ann, I want to turn it over to you for a little bit and kind of what sparked something in you. Obviously, this is something we all want to talk about, and it's so important. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you about that.
Oh, that's a great question, because I didn't start out knowing the stats in this study. It was interesting. What sparked it was noticing some stuff around me and then looking into it more. And that study, I think, is from 2019 from Argentum, and we'll get to what it says. But what actually started was I went to the conference, the ACA conference, ACA InCal, and I was talking to people. I was just talking to everybody and anybody. And I found this theme started to happen. And if you are a woman, or if you have worked with them, you may recognize this theme. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I would hear woman after woman telling me stuff like, Like there was this instance where I said, "Hey, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm a salesperson, or I'm in sales, but I'm not very good at it." And I said, "Why do you say that?" She said, "Well, I just listen to people and I try to solve their problems, and it's not necessarily always my company that solves their problems." And I'm like confused because that sounds like a great salesperson to me. So I'm thinking, so I say, "Well, do you have any sales?" And she said, "Yeah, I have sales, but I think they're mostly accidents." And that's kind of the theme that I would hear. I heard that about at least 3 times from 3 different women where they would say stuff that made sense. They would say brilliant things. They would share great ideas. And then they would completely discount themselves and say they don't know what they're talking about, basically. And then this one thing happened during one of the speeches at ACA in Cal. And the woman was talking about bringing somebody up on stage, and she played the piano, and she wanted somebody who just, you don't have to play the piano big or anything, just come up and you're going to strum a few keys. And so there was this group of women over in the audience, and they were all pointing to their friend. "Oh, she plays the piano. She can be good. She can be good." And the woman had to talk her into coming up. "Would you? Oh, she's not very good. I'm not very good," or whatever. And then next thing you know, before the woman could even ask for another volunteer, it seems like there's this man coming down the aisle on the other side. He's waving his hand and he's literally yelling, "I'll do it. I'll do it." And she said, "Do you play the piano?" And he said, "Let's just say I'm in book 1." And so then I start thinking, we as women discount ourselves. We're very humble. We're very emotionally intelligent. We don't want to, and anyway, we can get into a lot of the insights, but it made me start looking into it. And that's where I came across the study, and it was like, oh, interesting.
I love that. And I do want to, obviously, at the top of the show, clear the air here. We're not here to bash the opposite gender. Jordan, we adore you. We obviously want you to participate in this conversation. And truthfully, it's like in anything, you need allies to lift you up in this topic, in this issue. So I do want to clear the air there. And also going into a little more about this study and also the work that Argentum is doing is also about mentorship, because Leigh Ann, what you're talking about is this building of confidence. That to me is the crux of kind of the issue, and they have a great mentorship program. And I do just want to give, I don't believe she's on the committee, but just personally a quick shout out to Vanessa Lambert, who works for Sodexo. She is amazing. She welcomed me with open arms at my first conference, and just the coolest person, and has just really given me a lot of insight into the industry, and it's just hilarious, always good for a laugh, and she's just top of the charts there. She's one of the best, so I really appreciate her.
Jordan,
hello, Jordan. You've been so quiet.
I've been quiet because, y'all are saying everything that needs to be said. The only thing I do have to say is there's no need for disclaimers. Like, no, if you're offended by this, that is unfortunate, and we can have a private conversation, or you can go kick rocks barefoot. This is a conversation that needs to be had that isn't really had. And let's dig deeper into these statistics. So, first things first, going top to bottom, 80% of our workforce is female.
It's a big number.
When you dig deeper into specifically our Careforce, those numbers are higher. But when you look at just the Careforce in general in the post-acute space, 80% is female. But then when you go to the top, you have that 16% of executive positions, so your C-suite in this post-acute space are held, 16% of those positions are held by women. And that just doesn't really make sense. It just doesn't make sense. When you look at when you want to look at your leaders, and you want the people that represent you, that manage you, that speak to you, that coach you, you want them to understand what you go through. And the physical challenges of this role, specifically when it comes to the care role, are large. But yet you have majority of people that are telling you to do the job that don't share any of your experiences. So let's dig deeper into the value of the gender diversity as outlined in this article. So first is it's vital to the industry's leadership that, as we said, the composition of its workforce and its residents that are served, that the leadership represents and is in comparison of that. But we didn't even talk about the residents, that a majority of residents that live in post-acute long-term care or that even use aging services are women.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's so it's complex. It's complicated why you have 80% who are who caregivers, and then such a lower amount, 16% or whatever it is in C-suite. There's so many factors, and I don't know if we could explore them all. So I don't want to. The thing that struck me for this article that I wrote was the confidence aspect, but there's so many more aspects. But if we look at that one, like let's take a second and look at that one for a minute. It's interesting because I want to say to all women out there, now, not all women want to be in the C-suite. You can be at do whatever job you want to do. But if you dream of, being in the C-suite or just climbing the ladder in whatever way you want to do it, I want to tell you, you can do it, and that I guarantee you that you are thinking about your skills and your experiences. You're putting them down lower than a lot of men would, and I don't know why that is. But we do that. We don't believe in ourselves. We believe the bravado that other people put on, and we know that that's not us. So we think we don't meet that expectation. It's bravado. You're good. You can do it. And you just have to find ways. And then there has to be that ladder. There has to be some training and ladder that you can go to, and the mentor that Rachel talks about. But one more thing, on the other side, if you are in charge of promoting people and you're in charge of finding talent, look at the women who are quiet. Look at the women who are not pushing themselves, or the people who are not necessarily schmoozing you and doing all the normal things that people are going to try to do to climb the ladder. Because you may be missing out on some gems who just don't know how shiny they really are.
That's such an interesting point, because we're taught the opposite, right? Like, you have to go to every event, respond to everything immediately, make your voice heard. And we're very reluctant to kind of take up space, so to speak. And I think, to your point, Leigh Ann, there's a lot of hidden talent there.
I think most men are taught to what's the worst thing they can say is no. And I was always taught closed mouths don't get fed. And so I'll always speak up. Sometimes when, much to my chagrin, when I don't know what I'm talking about. And this is why I've been silent this entire time. But I mean, it's true that this is why mentorship and coaching and leadership in your leadership is very important, because if you just post a job, then anyone who believes that they can do it, besides the point of whether or not they can do it, will apply to the job.
Right.
And all of the people that you really want in that role, or some of the people that you really want in that role, won't say anything. Will just sit there quietly and let the status quo be the status quo. Well, he goes golfing with him all the time, so he's the right person to go for that job. Or he does this, or he speaks up and says that he wants the job, so it must be that he gets the job.
Exactly. Well said. And it is complex. And to your point about needing needing people at the top who, and we say at the top, I kind of don't like that term because it's not like somebody's, anyway, for lack of a better term, somebody at the top of this darn ladder who is in charge of leadership, and you want, as if you're working for somebody who's your boss, you kind of want them to be able to understand you. But also, to your point about the target audience, our prospects and our residents, you might want some people in your C-suite who have some experiences who could relate to those people too. For example, in marketing is my field, so I can speak to that. Oh yeah, it's good to have some women in there telling you, some insights that you might not think of otherwise. And even when we start talking about opening up positions to more women, or kind of broadening, just understanding that we need to think that way, you're also going to start looking at women who have stepped out of the workforce for a while to raise families, because that's common. So you got to open up your mind a little bit to people who may not have that resume, that they may have holes in their resume. And you also might open up your mind to older women and older people, whether they're retired or partially retired or not, and they're wanting to get back in the workforce and want to work, I don't know, part-time maybe, but they may have been caring for family, or they may have been in other positions, and I don't know, but how awesome would it be for us to have some older women in higher up positions making some decisions who actually understand our target market like nobody else really can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think it goes back to like you can't be what you don't see. I know that sounds really goofy, but it's such a simple saying. So it's like, if you are, like you said, Leigh Ann, do whatever job you feel passionate about and are compelled to do and fortunate enough to have, but how can you aspire to be something if you don't see it? Like how, like it's like a foggy window. It's like you gotta clear it. It's like that you can't. There's no path forward. Which again, going back to the title of this, like of the white paper, it's like you need a path forward, and you can't be what you don't see. And again, it's coming back to gender. It's coming back to of course, I'll touch on diversity too. And those are two really big things that. If we're gonna have a hard conversation, we've had a handful of these, Jordan. It's like these are things that need to be addressed in senior living. Period. Like I have no more to add to that, but I do think I do want to spend a little time. I do think there is a path forward. And I know they talk about this a little bit in the white paper. Sort of, what are some steps? What are some things we can do to move forward? And I'd obviously just kind of love to talk about some of those things. I think obviously a great start is, you have Argentum has a committee, but Leigh Ann, I'd love to kind of hear from you. I know you've really dove into this. What do you see as some ways forward?
That's a great question. And I want to hear from Jordan too, because I think he's really delved into the study more. I would speak more from my, just thinking about it. And I would love if anybody is watching and wants to add your ideas,
please,
add those too. But I know that when I was, when I was looking for a job, I was about 40, and I was like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I started looking around and asking around, and I thought senior living, I had written about it and for a long time, and maybe I could get more into it. Maybe there was a place for me in there. I couldn't find a place. There needs to be some paths where people can find their place and start walking up that. How do you go from being at the 80% level, where it's 80% women, and let's say you want to go into the C-suite? Do you have in your organization a path that's clear for those women and people to take? So just think about it from that side. And then again, a lot of it though, and I'm again speaking to the C-suite side, the people who are in charge of hiring and promoting, a lot of it is opening up your mind and just realizing, like we said, maybe there are gems where you are not looking. And then for the women, for the women out there who really want to do this, start pounding on doors. I would say one thing we're not taught a lot is the importance of networking. And it is so true in senior living. People hire who they know. So start networking with those bosses, anybody you need to. It may not feel natural to you, but start getting in touch and start asking questions about how do I just put it on people's radar that you'd be interested in that. And you are worthy of being on people's radar and of being interested in doing whatever the heck you want to do.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
love that this is a conversation during Careers and Aging Week. And either it's this week or it was last week, or I've been seeing a lot. And as someone who went to a Careers and Aging school, it is really hard for someone to, let's say, someone who's an activities aide or a life enrichment person or your CNA to climb the ladder. First of all, there's no really place to go out of that role and into your marketing HR leadership role. There are communities out there that do it and do it well, and I've worked with some, and it has been a pleasure. But it's not common, and it's really hard. And so you really do hire who you know, because these people, as I hear constantly, and this is a very common phrase that I hate because I fell into this. Like, that is the most common phrase I hear someone say. I fell into this. I worked at so-and-so. I had a successful career elsewhere. And then I fell into I saw a need. My parents had some need, and I'm not trying to discredit this story because this is a great story and how we have gotten some amazing thought leaders in this space. I was doing this. I saw this need. I did this. I applied this outside thinking into this. But as we have seen from just stories that CNAs and your life enrichment people and your activities, and there are some amazing thinkers that take some outside thinking and apply it to residents' lives to make a huge difference. And so this outside thinking isn't a very strange thing. It's just, looking for it, as we talked about, looking for the gem. So coaching and creating those career ladders is really important. Those internships and those opportunities to give someone the opportunity to move from food service to HR, to move from food service to leadership. There's just a thing in this industry where if you're at this level, there's really not many opportunities to move up, especially if you don't have the money for education.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think too, we talk about the work that, us as women need to do, speaking up, taking up space, those kind of things. But, as we sort of start to come up on time here, I want to talk a little bit, of course, about sort of putting some of that weight and some of that task on leadership too. And we were starting to talk about that, but, getting back to this outside of the box thinking and finding people that kind of have a different set of skills that you would think wouldn't work for this job actually makes them the best at it. And I think look for traits like emotional intelligence, empathy, because those are the kind of people that you can cultivate for leadership positions. Real talk, one of the things we don't see in leadership is a lot of emotional intelligence. Unfortunately, it's a lot of, hey, here, and I think Steve Murray wrote an article about this. It's just like, hey, I'm the boss, so do it. And like, okay, yes, but also no. and I think empathy is just a really great trait for a leader to have. And I think some of the best talent you will find will be with people with a skill set that you weren't expecting, and just kind of doing that work, thinking of these interesting programs of, how to get, Gen Zs and millennials into this industry too, and continue to open their eyes up to it too. Is one of the through lines of a lot of our conversations on this show too, is building a foundation for the future of this industry. So, yeah.
I was thinking about the study here too, that it pointed out some ways. It's not that it's not diversity for diversity's sake. It's not gender diversity just because. It's you actually get benefits from it. And if you look at the study, you can read some of the benefits that they have found. For example, they found economic benefits, improved company reputation. I'm just reading like the headlines: improved company reputation, improved customer orientation, increased recruitment, even in a talent crunch. Increased recruitment. Imagine if you could advertise, oh, we have a career ladder for you. What community they're going to choose in town if you were the one to advertise that. And then superior company stewardship, where they list things like more effective risk management practices, it's more ethical kind of stuff. I mean, this kind of thing, I don't know that it's because women come in. I don't know. Maybe it's because women come in and they do this. Maybe it's just because the company opening up its mind and trying to be more cognizant also leads to these other things. Who knows? But there are benefits that study did find.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to throw up quickly here, just kind of talking about the 4 pillars of kind of the foundation. So yeah, I want to just kind of talk about a little bit. I mean, we've touched on a lot of this, but just to kind of bring us full circle here of some things to kind of focus on that they talk about. Obviously we're talking about education, supporting, celebrating and really measuring the diversity, the gender gaps that are a part of your organization, and working hard to address that. And I'm not going to sit here and say these are changes that can be made overnight, right? It's like any real change. We're not here to point fingers and just say, hey, so tomorrow when you wake up, here's what you're going to do. You're easily going to boom, have at least 30% women in leadership positions. Here we go, guys. All right. It doesn't work like that. Just start by making a list of sort of maybe where you're falling short a little bit, and be honest with yourself about it. Just start there. And then it's continuing to take those steps, continuing to do the work to kind of do that outside of the box thinking, to really have some of the best people be a part of your team.
Well said.
I try. Sometimes it's a rarity, guys.
It is. It's very rare.
Leigh Ann can attest to that. After working together for a long time now.
Yeah. Miserable.
We are still live. I have not. Yeah. Yes. Just to clarify.
Sorry.
Reining you two in. I'm really proud.
Women supporting women, Jordan. Don't you see this happening?
One of the things I'm really proud of working for Care is that we have a majority female leadership, which is really awesome. And the amazing women that work at Care really are awesome to work for and work with.
Jordan, is that a little tease for maybe like an upcoming episode in the future?
Well, I mean, to just like shout out one woman that is a leader that we are very proud to work with. We are bringing Lori Porter on next week, and Lori is coming back to talk about some great things that need to be talked about, like CNA Fest is coming up and some other work that NACA's doing. And plus, I want to get some opinion. So I want to get Lori's opinion on some things. So that is what we're teasing. But yeah, so you have to tune in to watch more of Lori Porter too.
Fantastic. That's talk about gems. Oh, that's a good one. Well, guys, we are wrapping up this episode. I love this conversation, Leigh Ann. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for joining us. And we will also make sure I was just going to say, we will drop this link. It's like Jada is inside of my head. I love it. We will drop this link also on our LinkedIn page. And you can catch Jordan and I every Wednesday streaming live. We are on the Foresight LinkedIn page. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. And, follow us on all the socials. Follow Care on all the socials. They've got a lot of cool stuff going on. One of the things they've been doing that's pretty cool lately is... are these little tips. And I believe the one today was just kind of taking a moment, especially for caregivers, to focus on your mental health, avoid that burnout. This has always been a tough job, but obviously we know the past several years have been particularly really, really tough. And we're not in their shoes. So the best we can do is say, hey, like, please take care of yourself so that you can take great care of these residents. So yeah, a little shout out. I love that Care is kind of giving those great tips right now. So guys, that is it. We so appreciate you watching. And again, Jordan, Leigh Ann, thank you. This was a great conversation. We'll see you next week, guys.